Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Identity Project. Today, I have a new friend, super recent, as in like a few minutes ago, Miss Kendall, aka the Flexible Foodie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing super well. It's Thursday here in Texas, and I feel like it's cold, rainy New York weather, but you would probably tell me to shut up because I'm here in Texas and it's not nearly as cold.
It's like, honestly, like here in the city, it was like 60 degrees the other day. So you could walk around without a jacket on. You could just like sit in the sun. Today, it's like, yeah, it's like 25 degrees. Like not fun at all. But I'll take Texas any day.
Well, hey, maybe you'll get out to Austin at some point.
Right? We'll see.
So, Kendall, like we always do on each podcast episode here, I love diving into people's stories. I think that that's like one of the most inspiring things in the world. So, if you're open to it, I would love to dive into your story. We were kind of talking a little bit before this, and it already sounds so interesting. So, I'm excited to dive into it.
Thank you. So, yeah, I guess let's start from the beginning. I guess I'll start from, let's see,
Take
from
us
when
way back, like take
way
us all the
back.
way back to like elementary school.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So a little bit of background to like put things into perspective would be for all my school, like the whole time I was in like the school system in the city, it's always very tight knit and family oriented. So I'm very grateful that I was able to, but I went to private school in the city. So my like middle school, grammar school was, let's see, 40 kids in my class. And then for high school, it was 43 kids in my graduating class, 200 in the whole school. So I grew up with like a lot of the same people because my middle school and high school, even though they weren't like, you don't go from one to the next, you have to apply for high school here. It's like college, just nuts.
Interesting.
Yeah, super. It's crazy. Um, so I had a lot of the same friends from grammar school come to high school with me. So we sort of always stayed together. And then obviously I met new people in high school. But yeah, in grammar school, um, let's see, man, I was always like the shy one. I never really like voiced an opinion. I always felt more, hmm, I always like hid behind the scenes. I'll say it like that. I think I always felt like somewhat intimidated by other people. Not really sure why. This is also making me reflect a lot about middle school. Um, and I think also it's like the time right before I graduated, so like seventh or eighth grade. That's where like a lot of like the body dysmorphia stuff started. When I was super young. When I was in elementary school, I played basketball. I ran track, really active. I really loved like eating well and just like exercising. And by the time I was in seventh grade, I would say I realized a huge like shift in the mindset of what like healthy was, quote unquote. It turned from like a lifestyle thing where I was still like pretty, I don't know, the word balance these days is here and there, but like I was more balanced, I guess you could say, when I was younger because I was a kid. I didn't really know anything about nutrition. So I would like have my mom's home cooked meals, but like still went to the gym or did a workout or did whatever. And then when I got to seventh and eighth grade, it was more so I'm seeing all these athletes and they look like this. What do I have to do to get to look like that? And that was like, I don't know, like shred it to the bone, like like
Who are these? I'm curious. Who are these athletes? Like specifically, like was
oh,
it in? Because you mentioned you played basketball and
mhm.
volleyball. Was it more in
Yeah.
that realm, or
Kinda. It was more so a lot of like the what was it? There's a Nike has an app. They have the Nike training app, which I like still use to this day for workouts. I love it. But a lot of those people who are like Nike master trainers, they're like they're not like shredded. They're like a healthy lean. But at that time I was like, no, I want to get like shredded because like people who are healthy have six packs, right? That was my mindset.
got it, got it.
And obviously I didn't know that at that point in my life that that's not sustainable for someone within reason of it. But yeah, I would say that's where a lot of the body dysmorphia started happening. And I would find myself like in class in my head all the time, just being like, I feel like this today, and like talking down to myself and just being like, I feel like crap, and this is what I need to do to get here. You're never going to get there. What do I have to do? And the first thing revolves around nutrition. So I was like, I'll just like lower what I'm eating, lower my calorie amount. Didn't even know what I was eating in the first place. But like for me, it was like, okay, so then we'll just like basically stop eating is what it jumped down to.
Were you tracking, like, before you decided that you needed to like start eating less, were you already like tracking
Oh,
your food at that time, or?
I had no idea how much I was consuming.
Got it. Got it. So you just started like eating less in
Yeah.
general. Okay.
Yeah. And so like for me, I don't know about you, but I tend to undereat no matter the circumstance. Somehow, some way, it just happens to me.
It's because you're
And
a busy bee.
right, always going around. And yeah, for me, I think it's always undereat, no matter like when I was that age or even now, honestly. Like I had this talk with Chase Tuning the other day. We just both forget to eat sometimes. It sounds so stupid, but it like really happens. I don't know about you, but like I get way more focused when I'm fasted.
Yep. Well,
And I love it.
I think that's pretty common with like most
Right?
entrepreneurs for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes you feel good. So, yeah, I think with not having the background at that point in my life and just like going from whatever I was consuming to like nothing almost, I'd probably, honestly, looking back on it now, probably I'd say like 800 calories a day,
Wow.
uh if I had to like look back.
So were you like starving?
Oh yeah, like I was pretty hungry then. And during the summer I would go to day camp upstate New York, and after the bus would drop me off at home, I'd immediately go to the gym. So like after a day of already being active, like playing basketball, playing dodgeball, favorite sport at camp, like volleyball, doing all this stuff, I'd go to the gym and go on like the elliptical for an hour and a half. And
Wow.
to the point of where like my mom would call the gym and like they would have to announce my name over the loudspeaker at the YMCA and say, "Hi, Kendall Dickieson, your mom's calling. She needs you to go home."
Wow.
Yeah. Like it
Wow.
was 0 to 100 very quickly.
So I mean, how long, like in terms of like eating 800-ish calories and like doing these like 1 hour elliptical like trainings after going to
Looking
like,
back.
yeah.
Oh,
I mean, how
crazy.
long did that actually last?
Um, huh. The food intake lasted for a while. The cardio so much definitely burnt out from that, and I was like, screw this.
Yeah.
um, but I would say like the food aspect was like the major thing for me the whole time, and that went from elementary school to high school to my first semester of college. So I was with that. I was with like these thoughts in my head of like, no, don't eat that. Or like, no, that's not good for you. Like the whole like BS, fats make you fat, carbs make you fat, proteins, everything. Like that was my mindset. It's so funny now, but it was so bad then. And like, yeah, I just remember like going out, like from a very young age, like my social life took a hit because I would get afraid to like go get a slice of pizza with my friends,
Yeah.
or like be at the school dance and like, no, I don't want to eat anything, like, like stuff like that.
So I guess the question I have is, you had mentioned, this Nike app, right? And like what those kind of master coaches or whatever looked like.
Yeah.
So what was it like in middle school and what was it in elementary school?
um I guess it was like, I don't even know. uh as elementary school was more so, I would say like that's where the thought process started, was more of the like, I'm not comfortable in my skin and like who I am yet, which is, I mean, you're so young then you really have no idea what's going on. And then like I would say then the food thoughts started happening as I got older. So like more like middle school. So I always had these thoughts. I've always been like an anxious person. And I'm very open about that, like on my account. But I would say that anxiety flipped into just like something that was way worse. So I channeled my anxiety inward instead of like trying to resolve it in like any other way. So I would take it out on myself. So that was like, then that was the hit with like food, working out too much, not eating enough. Like it just sort of, it's like step by step by step.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, I think I've had a lot of conversations, with people that have experienced similar things. I mean, my wife, like she deals with like anxiety extremely bad. She'll
Yeah.
wake up like recently, she woke up in the middle of the night and like grabbed me and like woke me up. And I was like, what? Like,
I
but
feel that.
it's crazy. I mean, I just, so, and, obviously this is like a really touchy subject, but like, I'm just curious, like at such a young age, was that like, you hear stories about like, maybe they saw like their parents doing something and that's what triggered those thoughts. Like, was it that for you or was,
That's a good question. It wasn't that for me. So I grew up, I actually haven't really opened up about this on Instagram. But I do plan to. So, my mom's a single mom. My dad used to live here. He lives in Florida now. They got divorced when I was in third grade. And I would say that like really took like not a, it took a hit. I can't really remember it like that well because it like was all like flashing before like you're so young, you don't really know what's happening. You have a gist, but you just don't know the back end.
right.
So I wouldn't say anything I saw in my family triggered it. I think maybe it's just that maybe I just had like weird feelings from everything that was happening as I grew up that I didn't know where to put it, or I wasn't accepting things because I didn't know what was happening. Like when something happens and then you're like a year later, you're like, oh, that makes sense now.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're going through it, we don't understand, right? We don't understand
Yeah.
until later on. I mean, I feel like everything that's happened to me in my life that like I thought was so bad, like looking back on it and reflecting through
Mhm.
it, like it's like, wow, like, I mean, it was really put into my life for like a reason. And like me overcoming that then is like what led to me doing what I do now.
No, exactly.
Uh,
I listened to you and Jason's podcast. And I had no idea about your like story, and it's like insane. I was like, whoa, was not expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like it was something that I was like scared to death. Like I didn't talk about it for
Yeah.
8 years. So, but I will say, I don't know if you listened to the podcast with Brad Jensen.
Yeah.
So his story, I mean,
Oh,
when I
I
met
know.
him and I
Yeah.
told him, or he told me his story, I was like, oh my gosh. So
Right.
I did my podcast with Jason, like literally we were in Miami Beach and I did it
Yeah.
one day after Brad. So I was like, my story like is nothing compared to Brad. We always like compare ourselves, right? But anyways, okay. So continue on as we're
Yeah.
moving through this life story.
Let's see. So then I would say let's jump to high school. Super small high school, still same setting, same friends for the most part, all supportive of like each other. I played that's where I started playing volleyball, was in high school. So I made varsity in sophomore year, and then I was JV freshman but played all 4 years. And then like add in basketball, add in track, softball, like managing the basketball team, all this stuff. And then my own workouts on top of all that. I was pretty good the like freshman year of high school. I definitely had like still like really bad body dysmorphia. I'm just like very not comfortable with who I was. And well, freshman year of high school for everyone is just like a mess. But I would say like, I don't know. Now that I think about it, I felt like that year was pretty good. Like I enjoyed myself, but not too hard. I didn't really put myself in a lot of uncomfortable situations, but I did have control. I think that's the main thing here is like the control I felt like I had to have over my situations, whether that was with food or like with nutrition or fitness, that still existed in some sense. So whether that was just like something super small or something to like, no, I'm not going to go out to dinner tonight. I'm going to eat before I go so that then I don't have to order anything because I didn't know what was in it or this, that, or the other. And like as the years went on, junior year is when everything went to like, can I curse on the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
So everything went to complete like shit. So I just don't really know. Like I don't think I could pinpoint why. It's very weird. This is really making me go back. I would say I still like would eat lunch at school and stuff, but I remember my school lunches switching to from like the sandwiches I would get in the cafeteria to having like a dry I remember this and I don't know why I ever did it, having a dry cup of Special K cereal for lunch. That was my lunch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, right? Just like
It's just so crazy to me because like you're so active. Like, I mean, in high school, like same thing, like cross country, track, football, baseball, powerlifting, like everything. I ate like everything in sight. Like my mom was like, she couldn't keep me fed, you know? So that's just crazy. I mean, you're so active. Like it blows my mind that you were able to even like continue to like train and compete like you were.
I don't even know how I was. I think it's also that like and this is where it's always hard to voice it because your brain is just like so confused about what you're doing. I knew, like, obviously I knew what I was doing to myself, but internally I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I still did it anyway because like I just couldn't trust my own instinct. Like I've always had a basic hand on nutrition. I've always understood it really well. And then like obviously as I got older and like I went to school for like human bio and stuff like that, like I know I understand it. So even then just having the basis and like knowing like this is how you lose weight, this is how you gain weight, like the simple equations, I still put myself in like the worst position anyone could. I just don't think it made sense.
So, I mean, this brings me to a topic that, I mean, I realized about myself, and I think a lot of people realize about themselves at some point or multiple points, is like this whole idea of like self-sabotage.
Totally.
Right. So like like how much of that element do you think played a part?
Huge. Enough to make me leave my first college.
Wow.
Yeah. 100%. It was like I would say the driver for everything. I don't know why. It's just like, but you don't know why still.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
can't pinpoint it.
We were talking about the podcast that Jason and I did before this, and he asked me a question that like it just like opened up my mind so much because he was like, why did you need like money and all this stuff? And I was like, I always blamed like me not having money.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, but that doesn't make sense. Like you didn't have money to buy like your shoes and all that type of stuff, or like you didn't have money to like eat. And I was like, no, I didn't have money to like live that lifestyle that I was trying to proclaim.
Uh-huh.
And then he asked me a question. He was like, do you feel like, or like, have you ever thought about in your life, like that you are like afraid, like, you know, that you have the potential, but you're afraid to actually reach it. Like you're you create self-sabotage purposely right before you're about to take off.
Yeah.
And like, I thought to myself just like multiple times throughout my life, and I don't know, it was just really eye-opening to me. Like, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here,
no,
but
good.
It made me think of that. And yeah, I mean, we always know when we're doing it to ourselves, but for some reason we keep doing it.
Yeah. And then we like, don't know why. And then we're like, I mean, I've spoken to like Jason about this too in chats, and like I just tend to close off like when one bad thing happens, like with a client or like with anything in like the business realm of things. I like shut down for a little bit, and then I like all these thoughts flood into my head of like, oh shit, like what's gonna happen, like I'm done, like this is it, goodbye. And then like a week later it will just be like this like big ass like good victory in like my business. Like this happened last week. Like last Friday, I lost one of my marketing clients. But it was like the first time I was able to just like brush it off because I've formed a thicker skin, like working with Jason. And I felt like something better was going to happen, but I still had like the self-sabotage. I can't even speak. Self-sabotage. Okay, whatever. It's one of those days, not enough coffee yet. And basically I just had a feeling that like something better was coming. And literally, I don't know, 3 days ago, I got a text message at like 2:00 in the morning for a client for one of my marketing clients that I thought wasn't going to happen. I thought the deal wasn't going to go through, and they confirmed it. And I've waited 5 months for an answer.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, whoa, this is weird. Like it's the minute that you start telling yourself like you're done, like you should probably go do something else, that everything just like is like, okay, well, here's this. Universe is going to give you this today. Like, here you go. And you're just like, oh, okay. Why do I ever say this shit to myself?
So true. So true.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's energy, right? Like, I mean,
totally.
it reminds me of that picture. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's the guy and he's like chiseling away at the rock and he's
Mm-hmm.
about to get to the gold or the diamonds or whatever. And then he stops and he's like
Yeah.
walking back the other way.
So true.
But it's so true. I mean, that's us so many times throughout our life, you know? And so
Yeah.
it's just the motivations, the inspiration to like be able to like remind yourself that like you, like, this is why I talk about this all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
we get so caught up in the end goal, like that
Yeah.
we need to stop focusing so much on that and like start focusing more on like falling in love, like convincing ourselves to fall in love with the process, with the journey.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think that's one thing also, because I feel like so many people also think their end goal is their end goal, but it's not. They like
Yeah.
don't even know what their end goal actually is.
Expand on
Um,
that for me, because I agree so much and it's so powerful.
yeah, like I think, whether it's like a means to an end of something, but for some people it's like the financial end goal. But like with finances, I think anyone could say this, that like once you reach that end goal you're just going to want more of it. And that goes for like anything. Like your end goal is always going to change, because we're just like, human nature is that you just always want more, more and more and more and more. And there was a quote that one of my friends said, what is it, like the guy, and this just goes for like motivation in general to like reach goals, but like the guy who says he wants to make 100K a year versus the guy who says he wants to make 10 million in a year, the guy who makes 10 million will do way better, because like, or wait, what was that? Or okay, here we go. So basically the guy who says he wants to make $10,000 in a year or in a month, if he sets that goal so low, when he starts like giving himself like a few months to reach that goal, he'll stop right before he's close, because he's like, oh, I could take my gas off the pedal. It will just like the money will just all hit and he'll be good. But the guy who sets like the really like insane goal, same guy, he'll hit over that 10,000 or 100,000, because he has such a big goal that like he rather just get farther and closer to that one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it's why we set big goals, you know. I think it's just also figuring out, you know, how do I kind of reverse engineer the process to the best of my ability,
Totally.
and how do I actually make sure I take action on those
Yeah.
big goals, right?
Oh yeah. Always. That's the thing though too. It's like I think for me personally, it was like I've always had like that action step-ish mentality, but I won't lie that like before Jason, it was always like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and then I get ready, I'm like, haha, just kidding. And for me now, it's definitely like, I know that and this goes for you too, right? Like if we don't do the action steps, our businesses take the hit. Like we have no choice. Like we're put in a situation where like you have to thrive or else. I mean, we all have like our days, but like, you know what I mean? Like we have to take the steps every single day and like do the things that we need to do on our like to-do list, because at the end of the day, like when we don't work, then like that affects like income. It affects like all this, like employees or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think we have to, it's a challenge, right? Because we have to show up for ourselves every single day so that we can show up for others.
Yeah.
Like if we're not our best self, then it's
Can't
really hard to have the inspiration to want to spread that into others.
Totally.
So yeah, it reminds me. So like I started off in the nutrition and fitness space like 8-9 years ago, like as a personal trainer. And I would remember like as a personal trainer, that was one of the first things they taught you, right? You could be having the worst day of your life, but as soon as you walk into those doors and you start training your client, like you better turn all that off.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's hard. I mean, you know, like that's extremely challenging, especially if you're going through something, you know, like that's tough and at a season of life. So, so Kendall, tell us a little bit, like, obviously you gave us context, you gave us this backstory, like talk to us now, like what are you currently doing now? And like, and then I want to dive into how were you able to like, you know, become this person after, you know, going through all of this struggle, because you've overcame a lot of adversity to get to where you are today.
Yeah, totally. And so right now, I have, I'm still refining it, but I like to say I have like an umbrella over what I do. So there's two sides. There's the marketing side of things, where I help like brands and businesses with like their marketing efforts. So whether it's mostly like media consulting. So a lot of like copywriting, a lot of content creation, social strategy, outreach, like it's this whole entity. So that's with small brands, whether they're like personal or corporate in the natural food and product world. And then the other side is like this food account, right? Like this health and wellness, like lifestyle food account. I think it's weird for me also because I only posted food for so long, and that will have to do with like the backstory of having to get here. But it's always weird for me to say health and lifestyle because I never thought I'd actually show my face on my account. And so now with that, I'm working on like my first big ebook, which is set to launch in March. So that's going to be like 75 like really, really good, like real food, like eat good, feel good recipes. So I'm super excited about that. But I plan on switching it up from like your normal ebook. So there's going to be like a personal touch in there that will really make it stand out. And so that's my big project for right now. But other than that,
what's your favorite recipe in that book? I know it's hard.
So I still have to finish a few of them. Oh man, I would honestly, it's weird. Peanut butter and jelly chicken wings. They're really good. So they're sweet, but it's like a spicy peanut butter. So it's like an Asian kind of flair, but like the sweetness from like the jelly kicks in at the end, and there's like so good.
Damn.
Yeah.
My mouth is watering.
They're so good.
Well, that's super exciting. So, and this is so this will be your second, is that right?
So I have the first one I did was, you know, we have to start somewhere. So it was one of those things I just made on Canva and was like, I'm just going to make an ebook. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know like the structure behind pricing and like what it should like look like and all this stuff. It ended up just being like this Word document with like a cool cover I made. And I was proud of it in the moment. But yeah, it wasn't like, it's going to be like from then to now, like seeing the difference. So I've spent, I don't know, 2 years, like just thinking about how I want this book to look. And it's actually going to be like one of 4 books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have to plan out like how I want to do it. It was going to be one big one, but I was like, I need the creativity to like not die right after doing all that work.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make it work. But yeah, no, I'm super excited about it. I think there's definitely an opportunity switch, which I helped find with like Jason in Arizona, for where like I want this account to go and like the message that I want to give out to people. And that all has to do with like the post that I made recently, right? Like the food quality stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a great transition. I have your Instagram pulled up right here. So yeah, you made a post 2 days ago and it was like,
Mhm.
here's your reminder that low calorie does not equal healthy. Sick of accounts messing with people's perception of actual nutrition plus health.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Thank you.
Love it. So yeah, let's dive into that conversation because I mean, obviously that's a huge misconception. And I
Yeah.
always tell clients, it's like, it's not your fault. Like
Hmm.
all of this marketing stuff is so freaking confusing. Like nutrition is the most confusing thing in the world because
Oh,
all these people,
100%.
like that's what they're preying on, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so let's dive into it. Like obviously we talk about all the time, like food quantity and food quality, like both of those things matter. Like it's not one or the other. Everybody wants to like
Hmm.
have this one-sided argument.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's dive into that a little bit more.
Oh man. So yeah, I made that tweet like, I don't know, one morning I was just like really pissed off and I was like, okay, just gonna go on Twitter. So I didn't actually think I was ever gonna put it on a post. And the other night after I recorded with Chase, I just felt some kind of way. So I just typed that up and I was like, yeah, I'll just post it. I didn't really, but like usually, the way I post is like I have my set time period and it was outside of my time. And I was like, it's not going to do well. Like people aren't going to like it. It's not what I usually post. And it's been my best like shared piece of content, like
Nice.
hands down, like I think like over 100 people put it on their Instagram story. And it's just like the response has been insane. And to see that so many people agree with that was mind blowing to me because no one ever voices it. And so that's where I was like, shit, like there is no one like there are a few people talking about it. Like, I don't know if you know who Max Lugavere is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I love his stuff. And so obviously like he's a huge advocate for that. But on like the smaller scale of like people, since he's like an author and like very well known, like on the smaller scale, like there aren't people talking about it. And that's where I was like, oh crap, maybe Jason was right. Because for months I was like, Jason, I don't know how I'm going to talk about this because I didn't know how to phrase it unless I got like pissed off about things I was seeing. And I think now posting that, I have a way clearer vision of like where other people's heads are at. And when it comes down to like this argument of everything, it's more so that I do agree, like people are preying on it. It's a pain point for people. Like losing weight is a huge pain point and wanting to look a certain way. However, I think, when it comes to like flexible dieting and if it fits your macros and like all that stuff, like, yeah, I believe in flexible dieting for sure. But I believe in the correct approach. I think people like for if it fits your macros, they're very like, okay, like donuts, Oreos, like whatever, I'm still going to lose weight. And I get it. Like I've been there too. Like I totally played the system a little bit too hard, but it's more so that these people are making recipes that just are like, hey, like low carb, like dump some sprinkles, like you got your frosting, which is just Greek yogurt and protein powder and like shitloads of Splenda and like you're going to be okay. Like go lose weight. And yeah, it's just the people rely on the low calorie, like crappy recipes because their palates are so messed up from eating them so often that by the time they have real food, they're like, whoa, this is actually good. And then they go back to that and they're like, oof, that tastes awful.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. And it's something, I mean, it's funny that you say that you don't see a lot of people talking about it. And now that you say that, I guess you're right. I mean, I guess that we talk about it so much. I just don't even like think about it.
Yeah, like no one's like hammered into like I don't want to say like exposing like the industry for it, but like there are people who know what they're doing is wrong when it comes to the marketing that they're doing.
Oh, 100%.
But they like once again they still do it anyway because it's converting for them and it's putting money in their pocket. And yes, I get that. Like, good for you, but you're putting so many people at risk. Like right now they're happy because they're losing the weight, they're doing whatever. But when they have like health issues, like, I don't know, 10 years from now, or like you're messing with kids' perception of food because they're seeing that like you're making all these low calorie things and you can like eat 6 of them in a serving because it's like no carbs, then you're like, I don't know, like kids will get eating disorders with that type of mentality. And that's where it's like, I'm really sick of this shit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, it's just so funny because like we could sit here and break down like every last diet that's ever came out, you know, and it's
Yeah.
like it's just, and honestly, the creators of each diet too, and we can like throw them all into a room and like for 10 minutes, they'll sit there and like fight and bicker and talk about how theirs is better than the other and whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like food quantity, food quality. Like we need to build awareness in like both of those categories. Like they're both really important. And
Totally.
I think that we could take any diet, keto, and if, you know, whatever, we call it any diet in the world.
Yeah.
And like you can abuse the hell out of it, or you can do it how it was actually
supposed to be. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I
I
mean, I think that goes back to like the environment and who these people are following and like who they're learning from. Hey, if it fits your macros, that's how this guy did it. So that's their perception of what it is.
Yeah.
But in reality, like that's
this
just
is
that
what
guy's
it is.
approach. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's the thing where it's like, you know, for me, when I figured out like when I learned if it fits your macros and flexible dieting in general, which is really interesting as to how I came across it. When I started implementing it, I took the approach wrong. I soon like fixed it, but then I started making the recipes on my account to fit what I was seeing in that space. So it was the things covered in crushed Oreos. It was like the, I don't know, like the xanthan gum, like filled protein fluffs that would fill you up and give you like a food baby, because like if you were dieting, like you didn't want to be hungry. And it's like all that. And I'm not saying like, I mean, now for me, I know what makes me feel good. So like, I'm not going to say shit about that. If I know like that, if that's someone's spiel, like go for it. But I know what makes me feel good and like long-term health, right? Like, I'm not saying Oreos are bad. I'm just saying like, if you want to like perform at your best, like you're like balance and like moderation is like key in everything. But at the same time, it's just like, is that actually taking up most of your week of your like daily allotment for calories and like your macros, or like, are you actually fueling yourself correctly? And I think people forget that, yeah, it's easier to grab like, I don't know, easier to grab like a row of Oreos for a pre-workout snack than like fruit.
Yeah.
Somehow. But
well,
something like that.
I think it's a great reminder for people that like, look, just because somebody is like super shredded on Instagram, like it doesn't mean that they're necessarily healthy. Like the guy pops into my mind that was like on Facebook. I'm sure you've seen him, and he would like, it was like intermittent fasting, but like he would eat like one meal and it was like pizza and all that stuff, but he was like shredded.
Yeah.
And like I had so many people ask me about him. They're like, well, like, can I do that? I'm like, look, in my opinion, like, yes, he's shredded. Like, look, obviously, like from an aesthetic standpoint, like it's working for him. But like, let me catch the man in 30 years and like, let's just see like what's up, you know, like we don't know what's happening on the insides eating like that, you know, for a long period of time. So it's just a good reminder, like don't put people on a pedestal and like just because they're like super shredded, it doesn't mean they're like a nutrition expert, and their recommendations actually could be more harmful to you than helpful.
Yeah. And I think it's also hard because people form cult communities out of this stuff too. And that's where it's very hard to like make the shift. And that's why you weren't at my hot seat because I think you left the day before. But during my hot seat in Arizona, I broke down crying. Like I don't cry in front of people. So Jason knows my pain point, and so does Chas. And they just said what they needed to. And I was just like an open book. Because I'm just sick of people having these cult followings and like using it to get more money in their pocket, keep saying they are this person who they are when, you know, I think we can all say, and we've been there, like in this industry, as in any industry, like the people you see on social media in real life, a lot of them are not the same. On the back end, unfortunately, like on the back end, like I've met people who I thought were going to be the nicest people, and they're some of the rudest people I've ever met in my life. Wow. And that's like solely from experience. And I mean, that was my, you know, I based that off my experience, but your first impression is everything. And it sucks because I know some of these people and how they treat people on the back end, and they act like they're all this on the front. And I'm just like, and they're like all these messages that they give out, and I'm just like, no, why are these people like falling for it, you know? But I can't like scream it through a screen.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. It's crazy.
I hear you. I mean, I think it's something that like I've struggled with ever since I got into the field. Like as soon as I filtered out the BS and I was like, okay, like these are the people doing it right, these are the people not. Like as soon as I figured that out, like it's always been a struggle because like what we're selling.
Yeah.
Well, your pictures are actually sexy, like in terms of the food. So maybe you are selling sexy food, but for most of us, it's like we're like the big rocks, as we like to call them. Like it's not sexy. Like marketing that is not sexy. Like sleep more, like, you know, things like that. Like what's sexy to people is like the instant results, like the instant gratification. And so it's hard to like market it against it. And it's frustrating for us, but I don't know. I think a long time ago, I was just like, you know what? Because for a while I posted, like I would post like super controversial all the time just to like get like, like engagement. And then I'm so sick and tired of like spending so much of my time defending myself in the comments. It's like, I just want to put out positivity and like good information. And like, at the end of the day, like as long as like I feel good about like what I'm doing, like I really don't care about, you know, the others' opinions, because I'm 100% genuinely trying to put out good into the world. So
and then it comes back to you like tenfold. I think it's one of those things, and I forgot who said it to me, but it was just like the people who are getting all of it right now, who like people know like something's up. 2 years from now, it'll all blow up in their face because it was built on like not genuine action. And eventually like the like imposter syndrome will wear off, and they'll just be like, what do I do now? And that's it.
Yeah, I completely agree. You I was listening to Gary Vee this morning, and he was talking about like the whole fake it till you make it thing, and how he like disagrees with it so much, but that just kind of made me think of it. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think it's something that us being in this field will just like, it'll always be the enemy, you know?
100%. You're so right.
So, well, Kendall, I want to respect your time. I know you're a busy girl, but thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the podcast today. Where can everybody find you at on Instagram, your website? And then let's give one more shout out for the book, and like when is that launching and everything?
All right. Okay. So you can find me on Instagram at the Flexible Foodie. And then my website is flexfoodie.com. You could sign up for the email list there. I'll be sending out like email blasts leading up to the book, and some like free recipes and exclusive deals that you'll be able to get to. And then for the book, we are aiming for mid to end of March. March is like the month for sure. But yeah, if you want to stay updated, you can sign up on my email list and you'll get the heads up.
That's awesome. And yeah, guys, like I'm literally like I've scrolled through her Instagram so many times. Like the pictures on here, like super legit. You gotta go and try some of the recipes. Are there so like when they go to your Instagram and they
Hmm.
see like a picture of food, do you have those recipes? Well, it's so like easy and basic. You don't even need a recipe for it. That's really
Yeah,
well,
that's really
maybe
the
for some.
gist. Like some of them are more like let's see. Like some are like pretty basic. Like any of like the meals that you see put together, like the steak, sweet potatoes, like that stuff is obviously pretty easy to make. Um the main most popular recipe is like the baked oatmeal that I have like going throughout the account a little bit. I've had maybe like over 200 people make it and send it to me. Well, 200 people that I know who have sent it to me in like photo form. I'm sure there are others though, but yeah. So a lot of it is like super simple. I try and make like most of it, like all the groceries can be found in your local supermarket, whether that's like Walmart, Aldi, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, like whatever your preference is. But yeah, I try and make it super accessible for everyone. So
I love it. I love it.
yeah.
Guys, go check her out. I think this story that she has and just the transformation. I think once y'all head over to her Instagram and y'all see just like how she's evolved from the story that she just told. I mean, I think the story is amazing. So, Kendall, thank you so much for taking the time. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Thank you.